Hey everyone, and welcome to the fifth episode of the series New Earth Codes. So, in this episode, I want to speak with you about the seven simple laws in existence in this universe, right? So, first of all, I want to mention that this is a perspective of mine. This is based on my own experience with life and the way I understand creation. This is based on the downloads and channelings that I had, and how I basically perceive this existence. Right? It is my own soul blueprint explanation or soul signature explanation of the simple laws of the universe that we as humans uh, have to understand in order to have an amazing life on this planet, in order to enjoy our lives, in order to be the humans that we want to be, in order to embody our soul missions and purpose, and in order to understand basically how the whole universe functions, how the whole creation in itself is made of, and how everything works, right? It helps us have a structure uh, based on we can flow however we want, right? So then without further ado, let's start with this journey. So, the first law is the law of being. Uh, the simple fact that we exist is enough. That's a law. We exist, right? You cannot deny this. You don't have to question it. You just have to embrace it. We exist. We are worthy of whatever we experience because we exist, right? How do we exist? That's a different story. We can dive there very deeply if you want. Probably in the next episode, and I think I also already posted something before, but let's just keep it simple for this one because this is how it's called, the simple laws, so that we understand the simplicity of these laws and we can actually apply them in our lives and to make sense of. So basically, the fact that we exist has no other purpose than just that, right? We simply exist. The purpose we give to our existence is solely dependent on our own intention and choice, right? Of course, there's a bigger picture to all of this. There's a bigger arrangement of things and how it functions and how many, we can dissect all of these seven laws in so many other laws and subcategories and all of that until we go mental about it, right? So the purpose is to understand simply the main laws that apply directly to the human existence and to embody these to understand how we function. So again, the first law is that we exist, and the purpose we give into it is let's say exploration, experiment, learning, expansion, and all of that. And while we exist, while we have our life journey, while we walk this path of being human, obviously we have a lot of things that we encounter, a lot of information, a lot of memory from other past existences, past lives, and then we can have future desires, like future timelines in front of us that we know we have to experience and so on. So the fact that we exist applies in the present moment. We just are. We exist right now. And from there we can go into time, although time is an illusion when you see it from the Earth perspective, but time actually also exists in the universe as from the fourth dimension, and we can dive into this this notion of time and see lifetimes that we have. We can then from there understand how the universe was made, how other laws function, how we want to become, and so on. But the main purpose of it all is to realize that we exist and fully integrate in that and embody and anchor ourselves in that, not being confused about why we exist and what's the whole purpose and how to do this and that. You just first of all just accept the fact that you exist without figuring it out what it is about, how it functions, and all of these whys. Step fully into beingness by accepting the fact that you exist. So that's the first law, which is the law of being. You just are. We just are. The whole life just is. The whole universe just is. And now let's step into a little bit into the creation of the universe, which automatically is the second law, which is the law of duality. So our universe functions on the law of duality. There are many other universes in existence that have different laws, right? They have the laws, for example, of singularity, or the law of contraction instead of expansion. The law of, we have a law of, I would say, multiplying and reflecting, right? This is how I will describe the law of duality. The first cell in existence, let's see it like this. So the first cell in existence became aware of itself, right? And from that point, it decided to, okay, what should I do next? You know, life is boring. Let's duplicate myself. Bam! So it created itself differently into another, and from this point on, the duality started, plus minus, right? So basically, whatever the plus cells was doing was reflecting back to the minus cell, and whatever the minus cell was doing reflected back to the plus cell. And from there, it expanded in 4 cells and 8 cells, 16, 32, and so on. And this is also what the flower of life represents. It's the moment of creation created, which started from a cell and expanded into millions and trillions and other cells, which created so many life forms, so many shapes, so many beings in existence, from planets and galaxies. These are all beings, right? From humans and plants and animals and elementals like air, water, and all of this. They all share this code of God, if you want, this code of source, this code of creation and life, which is the law of duality. Everything in this universe functions on the law of duality. And duality implies transformation all the time. Duality implies that there is no perfection. If perfection was a thing in this universe, if perfection was achievable, then it will be no point of creation. It will be no point of expanding further, you know, because when you reach perfection, then what's the point with life, right? Like, what is the point of reaching perfection? You reach perfection, you explore perfection, and then it's boring. Everything destroys itself because, you know, you have to recreate another experience. So basically, the law of duality always allow a little bit of friction, a little bit of, let's say, error, right? Like a little bit of a gap, of a glitch in the matrix. And therefore, you will always have room for expansion. You will always be able to find a different perspective for whatever is experienced, whatever is expressed, whatever is seen through the eyes of source, through the eyes of God, through the eyes of this body that you have, or you know, there are so many perspectives of seeing and interpreting life. So this is why this whole universe is so special, right? It has this opportunity of reflecting. It has this opportunity of expansion further and further and further. And until we explored all possibilities in existence, which are infinite, therefore it will never end. Yeah, we will constantly have something to do, something to experience, right? So the first thing to understand is this law. This is the law of duality and darkness and light, or masculine and feminine, and hot and cold, and so on. This is basically it. It's a law of reflecting, and this is mostly happens through contrast, right? You have a contrast, you see in the contrast, oh wow, I never saw this experience, I never saw this perspective. So therefore I learned something new from it, right? So, and the whole point of this is to see that through love, because that other perspective is also what you are at the core. It also has exactly the same codes of existence. It's the same source as you are, right? So that's what the separation and and unity consciousness is right now. We realize that every single perspective is valid, no matter how we perceive it, right? And while realizing that, every perspective is a way, a form of source expressing, then you can love that. You can bring that perspective into yourself, and you can feel that love for everything in existence. And of course, speaking about light and dark, there are experiences which are not comfortable for us, seeing it from a mind or from a body perspective, from a human perspective, right? There are so many things that happen in the world, and most of them we created ourselves. We generated ourselves because we had to learn ourselves how these things function, how this universe function, how the laws apply. Like we start to fight with one another. We start to when we came from this survival need of the third dimension, from this fear of survival and primordial thing that ruled our mind and consciousness, then everything we saw it from this perspective of separation, right? But right now we realize that there is unity in everything, and life is made in that sense for us to understand this unity consciousness and become harmonious and live harmonious within every perspective in this universe, right? And when we all reach that understanding, and when we all are able to explore this with the same values, right? With the harmonious unity consciousness, peaceful and loving, unconditional loving values, then we will all experience a different world. We will all experience what we call a fifth dimension, right? So if you want to learn more about dimensions and 5D body and the body that we will integrate from now on, check here the video, the playlist of the whole series, and you will find out more episodes that may be very meaningful for you and help you understand even more. So yes, this is the law of duality. And also a very thing that has to be mentioned in this is that we have to change our perspectives of what is good or what is wrong or right, because in order to feel this harmony and this unity consciousness, we have to come from a balanced perspective. We have to come from the middle and simply see the dark and the light as these natural things that are simply what governs the universe, right? It will always imply darkness, and it will always be light, because for light to exist, darkness has to be there, right? There's no light if the darkness is not there. So therefore, also every light experience that we have, at certain point it will be transformed by the darkness, right? Or we can call it the destruction force, right? Even let's give a different example. This planet has 4.6 billion years right now, right? So at some point in time, this planet wouldn't exist anymore, right? So that is the darkness reshaping this creation in a way that it leaves room for a different expression, right? And we as beings, we have the choice to realize this and take advantage of what we understand now and what we realize now, and simply expand our civilization beyond this planet, beyond stars, or maybe in the astral realm, where there's no need for body and shapes in order to exist and have awareness of yourself. What we call spirit guides or angels and ascended masters, they all transcended this dualistic perspective. And the only way to do that is not by pushing the darkness away, is by fully integrating within you and realize, wow, this is how the universe functions. There's no wrong or right in this. Why have I been all my life in battle within the love and light? It's because we all had this perspective that one side is right, one side is wrong. So yeah, when we manage to be at harmony with this law of duality, we will actually transcend it. We will actually feel into a non-dual perspective. We will be in a non-dual consciousness where infinite possibilities can happen, because we manage to somehow to an extent control these laws or shape them in a way that adds to our evolution, and we simply don't take them personally, right? It's how life is. Yeah. So the next law is the law of oneness, which I already explained in the law of duality, more or less, right? So I guess the law of duality is one of the most important fundamental things that we need to understand. And now the law of oneness, what it means is that when we manage to simply embody, integrate, right, this perception that dark and light will always be together, will always harmonize, and will always create and shape worlds. They are always dependent on one another. Then we will understand that everything in existence is one. Everything in existence is completely interconnected, and it has its own purpose. There's no this over this or that over that. Everything has its own purpose, and everything is exactly the same thing that we are at our core. Everything is source energy experiencing itself in a different form. As we humans are, as plants and animals are, as the planet itself and the galaxy and all of these dimensions of consciousness are. Everything is the same thing in a different form. It's a mirror, it's a reflection, right? So when we fully feel this within us, when it's not about thinking. We already know a lot what the law of oneness means, right? Like what does this oneness and we are all one and all of this concept means. But we have to make the work within ourselves to completely dissolve everything that sees life as separate, that sees separation, that perceives separation, judgment, hate, or everything that is separating. You know, we have to simply reach that point in time to forgive everything, every perspective that we have from the past, every third dimension survival perspective, because this is how everything started. We thought we are these animals that need to survive, and we are like, I don't know, strained on this planet, and we need to find our ways. But in time we realize we are infinite conscious beings with the whole universal code within us, with the whole creation code within us. Therefore from there we have to approach life, and therefore from there we have to then see oneness and do the work and release all of these primordial instincts of threatening, you know, of oh, this is threatening my life and so on. We have to realize that life is just a temporary thing. We choose to be in these human forms for a temporary time in order to experience this human life for the purpose of exploration, learning, expansion, and also very important to undergo this ascension process, what we are all going through right now. We are going now in the ascension process from the third to the fifth dimension, right? So this is a whole new perspective and a whole new level of how we see life. And in this fifth dimension, this is how we can tap into oneness, and this is how we can actually see everything as one, and we will function as one. We will function as a collective and not as a separate being, not as this person wants that from me and this person wants to do this thing that, I don't know, it threatens my life and my well-being and so on. Even if that happens, even if that person reacts in that way, we will understand their intention and we will walk away, and we will be able to have clarity upon what is the best decision to take. So this is how we will function into the fifth dimension. And again, you can see here more about that. I have some videos in the playlist in this series. For example, Life on the New Earth and the 5D Body, where you can see more how this fifth dimension functions and so on. So that was the law of oneness. Now let's go to the law of vibration. So the law of vibration is simply basically the law of attraction. Everything in this universe is frequency and vibration, right? We already know that. What does that mean? It means that whatever we resonate with internally, whatever we feel inside, we will attract more of that if you perpetuate that mood or that state of consciousness, if you don't shift it, right? So for example, if we feel sadness and we are not aware that we are sad, then we cannot work that emotion out in order to feel to dive into a different state, to change our state. Therefore, we attract more sadness and so on. Or if you feel love and if you feel happiness, right? Then what happens? You attract naturally more of that. You attract more happiness, more love, more exciting feelings. So this is simply how the law functions. No one is right or wrong in this. No one is to blame for. You have always the choice to choose for yourself. How do you want to feel? That's your power. That's your control over yourself. The control over your vibration. Every single being has that. No one should have control over your vibration. That's your full birthright and full freedom right there. This is how you can navigate whatever experience you want in your life based on your feelings, right? So you feel, for example, let's give a very standard example that everyone wants to feel. We want to feel abundant, right? So we want to feel that we are abundant, that we don't lack anything, because lack is it's a state of mind. Lack is something invented. Nothing is lacking. Everything is abundant. The universe has infinite possibilities. Source doesn't know any lack. It constantly transforms itself. It constantly creates, and it's infinite possibilities. So there's literally no lack. The lack is just a concept that we have because of this third dimensional survival mode that we need to go through in order to expand and to grow. So so when we step out of that lack, we realize that everything in the universe is abundant, and we have that choice to see that way. And that doesn't mean money. You don't have to have money in order to feel abundant. Abundant is everywhere. In smelling a flower, right? In hearing a song that you love, in simply going to the forest and be amazed of the nature around you, in going into the water, in the most simple things in the world you can find abundance, right? That's the most core basic thing about it. Then abundance is also feeling that you can generate within you all the time without even doing those things. Imagine the best feeling you ever had in your life, and how do you associate abundance with that, right? If you felt, for example, the connection with source, if you had a moment of bliss in a meditation, then connect with that feeling. That is really abundance. That's what abundance is. There's no greater feeling of abundance than being connected with source, being in alignment with who you really are and what you are. That's the best feeling in the world. So abundance is everywhere. You have no reason, even if you have, let's say, no money, and if you have financial difficulties, or you live in scarcity and so on, you can always have access to an abundance perspective. And the more you do that, the more you calibrate to that frequency of abundance, your mind completely shifts, your body completely shifts, your reality completely shifts, because this is how the law of vibration functions. Yeah, so you attract more of that, right? So be aware of this law. This is a very important law. Many people live lives that they don't want because they are not aware how this law functions, and it's extremely simple, right? Another example is, think about a radio. A radio emits a certain frequency that gives you a certain sound, a certain channel, right? When you shift that frequency, it receives another channel. So this is exactly what you can do within yourself. If you don't like a feeling, first figure out why you feel that way, right? Why do you feel in that way? If you don't figure it out, don't make yourself, don't be hard on yourself. Don't try to figure it out. It's okay if you don't know, but you know that you have two choices in that moment. Accept fully how you feel, embrace that, give love to it, and then shift the frequency into whatever you want to feel. Simple as that, right? So become at peace with how you feel. Be fully okay with your state of being, even if it's like sadness, frustration, you feel, I don't know, depression, stress, whatever it is. And then when you accept and when you embrace it for what it is, you don't even have to know why it's there. You will probably figure it out at the perfect timing. But then you know that you have the choice. Just say to yourself, yes, I feel this way right now, but I have the choice to shift this frequency within me to a different state, so that I will attract more of that, right? So this is how you also rewire your mind, and yeah, it's a lot to it, you know. So far, I think this is also extremely important law to understand, so that we can have the lives that we want and feel the way we want to feel and expand and you know, perpetuate more of a loving vibration and a happy vibration and a positive feeling in the world, because the world is it was so synced into unconsciousness. I don't want to call it darkness, because it's not darkness, it's simply unconsciousness. We just didn't knew how things work. We didn't knew, no one taught us how things work. You know, we were just very focused on surviving and making it and gaining resources and so on. But now everything shifts and we realize we have so much power and abundance is everywhere, and yeah, we can calibrate to that every time. So the next law is the law of expression. This is very, very important law as well, because also this is what brings you more of the things that you love. Because when you express, you live your purpose, right? Your purpose, our purpose as beings is to communicate, to connect, to express, to create, right? Every being in existence in some way or another expresses, right? So the animals, for example, they express through, you know, they are all unique in their own ways. They are all doing their own things, right? So how do they connect? How do they share? How do they express? Through reproduction, right? They reproduce, they like the life they live, you know, they live their purpose in that way, even if for us humans it's not so important what they do, they are very important in the ecosystem of the planet. The whole planet is one, so they live their purpose, they reproduce, and they leave, you know, space for another generation and another generation and so on. So they express, they exist, they move, they interact with life, they engage, they do what they came here to do. If you look at the ants, for example, they are always working, they are always doing something, right? They are always working the land. I don't know what they are doing there in their world, but they are always doing something. They express, they are alive, right? I think there are a few beings in existence, like the sloth, which is simply just lazy. And we have a lot to learn from them as well, because we were so caught into doing that we don't know how to be anymore. So the sloth teaches us how to be, because it's a very lazy animal, but that's his expression, right? He also expresses and teaches us, for example, how to just be and just accept life as it is and do nothing sometimes. Yeah, so we humans, we are made to create. We are very, you know, we are high intelligent beings, and we are made to create, and we create either we want it or not. Consciously or unconsciously, we constantly create. We create our own reality, and we impact the life around us, right? In our family and friends group, and in a society, and so on. We always create. We always leave a vibrational signature into the world, right? All the time, and that is how we create. So the more we become aware of it, the more we can actually deliberately create, right, our signature and what we want. So the main point of this is to not be attached to the creation, but to just find enjoyment and fulfillment in the process of creating, you know, because that's how we are. We used to, in the old ways, we used to be satisfied only when we achieve the goal, only when we reach the destination. And this is not what it is about. We have to create, we have to express all the time, no matter what. That is what we came here to do. It doesn't matter what the goal is, it doesn't matter how much we set up the goal, who will bring us money and fame or whatever we want to bring us, and love, and I don't know. What matters is to simply express and create, to simply be engaged, whatever that is for you. It can be as simple as just going for a swim. You express, you engage with life in that moment. Or it can be as big as writing a book and becoming a well-known author. It doesn't matter. And the point is to not attach to the creation and to simply enjoy the process of creating, right? So that's the law of expression. Now we have the law of integration. And the law of integration is coming in cycles. in cycles of life. Let's say we created something, right? We created let's give an example, an art gallery where we have a lot of paintings, and we look at these paintings and we are like, we put our expression there. People come there and see these paintings and they feel, wow, I love this. I love what you're doing. I love what this painting represents. I love how this painting makes me feel. It gives me a certain feeling. It makes me realize something big that I need. So in that moment you reach basically your goal. You created, and therefore you see how people give feedback to your creation, how the world interact with your creation, right? So when you do enough of that, then at some point you have to create again, or either you recreate again a different way, or you do something different. But before that, you have to integrate everything that you experience, everything that you absorbed at the soul level, at the consciousness level, through whatever you created. Everything that you created, you have to absorb and see how it makes you feel, to expand, to allow the expansion, the integration process to happen. You simply have to, it's like drawing a line and saying, all right, what did I learn from this? Bam, bam, I learned this and that. I learned that, I don't know, the best way to help the world is by sharing love through my paintings. The best way to connect with people is by creating this space and inviting them into my space and show them my art. And you just integrate, right? You integrate whatever you created in order for you to become more expanded, to have an expanded awareness of whatever of why you created whatever you created, and how it makes you feel, and how it also makes the world feel, right? So that's the process of integration. And if you apply that in a normal human life, you can also see that, for example, in the early stages as a child, from 1 to 7, we experience certain things, and then we integrate that, and we go to high school, and then we integrate that, and we go to university. This is a very old way of, like how the society functions. I don't really resonate with it. And especially I don't resonate with what we are taught in this kind of system, but just for the purpose of understanding that we always need to integrate certain lessons and move on, in a different way, in a different expression. This is a natural process and happens in whatever form, in whatever situation we experience in life. We will always have to integrate, So I gave this example because it's a very common one. And yeah, it's extremely important to be aware in these times when you integrate something, when you created something. That's the time when you are just being, and you just allow the information to expand you. You allow your creation to be there in the world, and you see the feedback of it. And then you have to, next time when you create, you have a better perspective. You create better things. And this is what I explained with the law of duality in the beginning. Then you have the chance to transform your creation, or improve your creation and expand your creation. But for that, in order for that to happen, you need to integrate. You need to have the feedback for whatever you created and expressed first. So yeah, this is the law of integration. And now the seventh law, the last law, is the law of expansion. And with the law of expansion is very, very simple. After you integrate it, after you create it, and so on, then you expand into a different expression, into a different way. You have a different desire maybe, or you have a different understanding of things, and therefore you expand. And everything expands. Every single being expands in their own way. They adapt to the evolution, either they do it consciously or unconsciously. Everything in the universe expands. The whole universe is an act of expansion, right? So this journey is never over. And to give an example from our human ways, in our human perspective, even this, we see this enlightenment thing or self-realization thing as the goal. We have to reach enlightenment. We have to reach self-realization in order to, I don't know, to be enough or to achieve something. This is only where the journey actually started, because yeah, when you reach what is enlightenment, enlightenment means to be conscious of yourself, to be conscious of the universe and how everything functions and how the laws of the universe functions and everything. And from there you are able to become the creator that you've always been, yeah, right? Connected with source, aligning with your core essence of what you are. And that's enlightenment, simply as that. And from there you have infinite possibilities to do whatever you want. You can transcend your physicality if you that's what you want. You can express your teachings to other people if that's what you want. You can do whatever you want, but the point is of all of this is that there is no specific destination. The moment we master something is the moment we also transcend it and expand, right? So if we master something, there's always room to improve that which we mastered, if you know what I mean. So it's always expansion is always going on. There's no certain point in time when we reached a final destination when we say, okay, now we arrived, now we are here, and that's it. Now everything stops here, and that's it. My life is fulfilled. I'm ready to, I don't know, die. That can happen when your life actually ends. But even from there, you transcend the physical reality, and if you don't want to come again into a body, then you expand in a different form. Then your soul travels to the universe and goes on a different planet and whatever you want to do, and you constantly expand your experience. You constantly expand who you are until a point when you decide, okay, I'm going back to source, and that's the ultimate expansion basically. And from there you take another form if you want, and it's an ongoing infinite process of constantly becoming more of what you are, because that's the purpose of the universe, if you ask me, is to always expand and become bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, until a point when, who knows, maybe it starts to contract, delete everything, reshape everything, and then poof, it explodes again in a different way, in a different form of shape. You never know, but it is still an expansion. It's contraction, expansion, right? So everything constantly expands, and the law of expansion implies simply that we have to enjoy the journey. Most importantly, not be so rigid and fixed into a certain result and a certain outcome of whatever, and we want to achieve this, and this is the only way I can be happy, and this is the only way I will feel worthy or whatever. No, you will be constantly learning, constantly expanding. Enjoy the journey, enjoy your process of being here right now. That's the most important things we have to understand. And when we do that, then we are, then we can actually live our lives being eager, being, alive, and being connected fully, and being truthful, and we interact very differently with life from that point. We don't fight for survival. We fight for thriving. We fight for the purpose of exploration. We will go, I don't know, we will probably go at some point out of this planet and seed life on other planets, as we were all, also created. Maybe, well, I wouldn't say maybe. I know about this. I had some channelings and downloads about this, and I know how it is done. I explained a little bit in another episode, but yeah, let's say we will just start to explore and expand out of this realm, out of this world. Right, so yeah, it is always room for that, and we want, if we do that, if we reach that point in life, we don't want to be this species who's destroying and who's like fighting for survival. We want to be that species that wants to engage with other species in the universe from a point of understanding and learning from them, and sharing our experience and sharing technology and co-creating with them, as we now co-create with one another on the planet more and more, as we end this illusion of I'm better than you, and competition and survival, and survival of the fittest. That applies only in a third dimensional perspective, when there is an actual threat, but there's no threat right now. And even if there is a threat, if you see it from a different perspective, you will be able to make a slalom instead of being in it and trying to fight for your life. You go, okay, this is happening right now, I can choose a different outcome. You know, it's a perspective that changes. So yeah, the point is that we have to enjoy our expansion and acknowledge the fact that it's never over. This journey is never over. At some point you will be a planet. At some point you will be the sun. You know, it's the more awareness of ourselves we have, the more we can expand into more. And that always happens with purity and love, and with the knowledge of how you know, the laws of the universe function, and respecting those laws instead of thinking we are better than them. If we do that, then we become contracted, right? We separated, which we already did on this planet. We became separated and contracted and miserable and feel, I don't know, all of these feelings that you know, we don't belong in this universe and we have to make our way out of it or make our way through it, and so on. So yeah, these are the 7 laws. I hope you enjoy it. I hope they make sense for you and they help you have a different perspective on your journey, on how the universe functions. And yes, I hope you have an amazing life journey, and I wish you all the best, and see you in another video. Infinite love. Oh, and if you like this, if this makes sense, please like, share, and with your friends, with your family, with people you love. Let's spread good information, let's spread good content, and you know, that makes us feel simply more of who we are and understand ourselves better. And yes, that's it.